Let's simplify 1 plus I to the 2012 plus 1 plus I to the 2000, 1 minus I to the 2012. We're not going to multiply this out. We will use de Moivre's theorem. So 1 plus I, if we plot this in the complex plane, is right here. So the distance from the origin is square root of 2, and the reference angle is pi over 4. And so therefore we can write 1 plus I is equal to square root of 2 times cosine pi over 4 plus I sine pi over 4. Or we could write this more compactly as square root of 2 times e to the I pi over 4. So therefore, 1 plus I to the 2012 plus 1 minus I to the 2012. That is equal to the square root of 2 to the 2012 power times the cosine of 2012 pi over 4 plus I sine 2012 pi over 4. So that's the first term. The second term, 1 minus I, is down here in the complex plane. So its distance from the origin is also square root of 2, and the angle from the positive real axis is negative pi over 4. And so we may write 1 minus I as square root of 2 times the cosine of negative pi over 4 plus I sine of negative pi over 4. So continuing over here, we have plus square root of 2 to the 2012. The next term would also have square root of 2 to the 2012 in front. And it's going to look an awful lot like what we just wrote down, except it'll be cosine of negative 2012 pi over 4 plus I sine of negative 2012 pi over 4. Okay, now for the next step. A couple ways we can proceed here. First thing we're going to do is, let me just take the first term unaltered. First term we'll leave as is. Let's examine what happens to the negatives. Cosine of negative an angle is the same thing as the cosine of the angle, so that minus sign goes away. Sine, however, is an odd function. Cosine's even. Sine is an odd function. So if I take the negative away here, that becomes a negative on the next line. So that becomes a minus sign. The first term's unaltered. And so we see that the imaginary parts, whatever they are going to cancel. Square root of 2 to the 2012 times sine. Here I have square root of 2 times 2012 minus sine. And so these, when I multiply out, the sine parts will cancel out. The cosine parts are the same. So I will end up with 2 times square root of 2 to the 2012 times the cosine of 2012 pi over 4. And doing the division, that's 503 pi. Okay, 503 pi. I can take out an even number of multiples of pi, or an even number of pi's, an even multiple of pi. And so if I subtract 502 pi, that does not change the value of cosine. Subtracting 502 pi would be the same thing as taking 251 rotations away. So I end up with 2 times 2 to the 1006, because square root of 2 is the same thing as 2 to the 1 half, and half of 2012 is 1006, times the cosine of 1 pi, because 503 pi and 1 pi are coterminal because the difference is 502 pi. Cosine of pi is -1, so I end up with -2 to the 1007 power. So whatever that is the value of 1 plus I to the 2012 plus 1 minus I to the 2012.